The Oak Park Heights City Council meeting for Tuesday, October 11th to order. First is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is the approval of the agenda. We just have one addition under consent agenda, item D, to appoint the election judges. Are there any other changes or additions?
I make a motion to approve the agenda with that addition.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Runk, second by Councilmember Lutschgren. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have council staff reports. I had National League of Cities, the Small Cities steering group, and then we had some were able to go to it, had a little ribbon cutting on Norwich on the 29th, and then on the 10th had a check-in call with our lobbyist Ann and Angie, just kind of circling around on what to expect for the next session coming up and elections and things. And then tomorrow for the Energy Transition Committee, I have an 8 o'clock meeting for the taxes, a 9 o'clock meeting for the reuse, and then a 2 o'clock meeting for community engagement. And then on Thursday, I'll be attending the Last Man's Club luncheon. That's all I have. Councilmember Doherty.
Let's see, I was also at the ribbon cutting in Norwich, and the Parks Commission was this coming Monday.
Thank
That'll be
you.
it.
I did mention it to Jennifer, maybe you could take a look at it. I was at my grandson's soccer game at Brecky last week, and they finished after dark, and I didn't realize after the LED lights have been changed out of there how dark the parking lot is after dark with the kids running around, that maybe have the Park Commission take a look at that sometime in the future. It's kind of dangerous with some of the little ones running through the parking lot and cars are starting to back out. Councilmember Johnson.
I also attended the ribbon cutting, and I also attended the Cable Commission meeting this month.
Thank you. Councilmember Lutschgren.
I'll be attending the Planning Commission meeting this Thursday, 6 p.m.
And that should be a much quieter meeting now.
Yep.
Okay. Councilmember Runk.
I attended the CVB meeting this morning. They're progressing along. And then I attended the Watershed Middle St. Croix last week, and one of the items of approval was the car wash on 60th Street.
Okay, thank you. Staff reports. Chief Hansen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Just a quick wrap up. We had homecoming since we last saw each other. Went off really well. The largest crowd they've ever had for their carnival and for the game. It was packed, at least. But it went smooth and no issues. We had 2 coffee with the coffee events out at Botwell's and at Park Senior Living. Those were well attended. And we're hoping to continue that. Botwell's is requesting this every month or every other month, so we're hoping to keep that moving. We've got our coloring contest that's still going on here till the end of the month here for Halloween, as well as we have a nice donation from Walmart to support that coloring contest tonight during one of the resolutions. Squad cars are still out 1 month is what I was told. I think if we bring our own computer chips, it might move it faster. But we're hoping a month and we'll get our 2 extra cars in or replacements.
Good.
So that's all I have. Any other questions? Or?
Nope. Thank you very much. Assistant City Administrator Pensky.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First, I will report the Recycling Award winner, and that was Colleen and Wyatt McCready at 14085 53rd Street North. They had their recycling out on the curbs for pickup, and they have been chosen to receive an award for that. Secondly, I have our cleanup report. We had 303 loads, which is heavier than we typically see for fall, so it was a little busier than we've seen in past years. And that was 33.43 tons coming in, so a little bit heavier this time around. Lots of stuff people are getting rid of. At cleanup day, I did hand out a flyer notifying residents of the changes coming up starting in January, so we'll talk about that a little later on the agenda.
Thank you. And Jennifer, do you remember the date, but just to let the kids know that they can enter the contest for the League of Minnesota Cities for Mayor for a Day?
Yes, so 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students in the state of Minnesota can enter by essay for a Mayor of the Day contest put on by the League of Minnesota Cities. That application is linked on our website and will also be in our newsletter, and the deadline for that application is December 11th.
Thank you. Are there any other staff reports? Okay, so we'll move on to the visitor public comments section, and this is a time for anyone in the audience who would like to address the council on any item not on the agenda. And I think all the council members did get the one email from a resident that couldn't make it tonight, so that comment is there. And then we have a visitor tonight. We have our chief, our fire chief, Alan Eisinger, to talk to us about Fire Prevention Month.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. Appreciate the invite to talk about fire prevention. Fire Prevention Week is this week, October 9th through the 15th. This year's theme is Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape. So we encourage everybody at home or wherever you are to locate your fire exits and have a plan. So if your family has an incident, they can escape the house or the residence, wherever they are, and have a meeting place, typically maybe by the mailbox or a favorite tree or wherever. But we want you to get out and be safe. With that, this week, we have a lot of things going on. We have our open house this Saturday from 9 to noon at our station at 1012 Fifth Avenue in Bayport there, right on the border. We'll have all sorts of fire apparatus outside for people to look at and tour the station. We also go and visit a lot of schools and preschools. Tomorrow I go to preschool. It's going to be like herding about 37 cats, but we'll have 157 Anderson Elementary students coming out to visit the fire trucks. So it's exciting to see everybody. And right now, at the same time, we have somebody at the St. Croix Prep School going over with a group of Boy Scouts. So we've been busy. We've been really encouraging everybody to check your smoke detectors and your batteries. Again, change your batteries in the fall or the spring, but at least once a year, change them. A lot of these smoke detectors now, they're coming out and they're claiming that they're 10 years. No, they're not. Basically, CO detectors only last 5 years, and then the sensor goes out. So change the batteries every year. Look at the back of your CO detector or your smoke detector. When you see that date code and it's approaching, the CO detector's 5 years, get rid of it, put a replacement in. Smoke detectors, I wouldn't push it past 7 years because it will fail, and it's going to fail at 2 times, 2 in the morning or a holiday dinner. So firemen eat a lot. So when we come out, we do offer to change the batteries at night, but there's a lot of times we just can't get out there and change them all. So be proactive. With that, I'll stand for any questions that anybody may have.
I had one go off at 3 o'clock in the morning last week, and it had a new battery in it, so it obviously wasn't a fresh enough battery.
Yes.
So I have a question. I've got like the hardwired ones in my house where it's, wired in, but you're saying those should be replaced every 7 to 10 years?
Yes.
Take them all down and put them
Yes. If one goes, they'll all go. And we'll go through and help identify the one. Most of them have a little green light, and if you barely can see a little green light, your battery's almost dead. The good ones you'll see a full green light in there. If you see small green or a red light, it's shot. And most of them now are plug-in. So you buy the same one and then look at the back. I just had to do this up at our cabin. And you just unplug it and plug the new one in so you don't have to wire anything.
And this is a good suggestion to have both, not just rely on one or the other.
Most of them still have to have the battery backup. Even though it's hardwired, you have to have battery backup. And she's not here, your building code, but I think there's new ones out there that are Wi-Fi to help on the older construction, because in the past, when you sold a house, you had to have hardwire smoke detectors. Some houses, you can't run wire in there without totally remodeling the house. So the new technology is they're all Wi-Fi interconnected, so it helps you on that.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Hopefully it'll be a beautiful day on Saturday.
It should be, might be a little cold, but thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So next we'll move on to consent agenda, which is approved bills and investments, check 68571 to 68625 for a total of $327,564.93. Approve city council minutes for September 27th, 2022. Adopt resolution accepting donation from Walmart for police department Halloween activities. And appoint election judges. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Doherty, second by Councilmember Johnson. Eric?
Councilmember Doherty.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Liljegren.
Yes.
Councilmember Runk.
Yes.
Mayor McCumber.
Yes. We have no public hearings tonight, so we'll move on to City Ordinance 1412 relating to sale, possession, and use of cannabinoid products and related devices. Jennifer?
Yes, Mayor and Council, as you recall, this was discussed at the last council meeting, and a couple of changes came up recommended by the city attorney's office, and then also a change that the council discussed related to the number of licenses and removing that limit from the draft ordinance. The changes that were recommended by the city attorney's office related to penalties, criminal penalties, and so those changes have now been made. You do have now a clean draft in front of you of the proposed ordinance 1412 related to sale, possession, and use of cannabinoid products and related devices. You also have in there a summary for publication, and then staff recommended fee of $2,500 for an annual license fee, and that recommendation comes from reviewing other community fees and discussion with city attorney's office and the chief of police related to enforcement costs.
Thank you. Everyone has had a chance to go through it all?
Yep.
Do you have any changes or questions? It looks really good now.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Liljegren, second by Councilmember Doherty. Eric?
Councilmember Doherty.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Liljegren.
Yes.
Councilmember Runk.
Yes.
Mayor McCumber.
Yes. We'll move on to new business, which is garbage and recycling service changes for 2023. Communication plan. Jennifer?
Yes, Mayor and Council, as you know, we did sign a new contract with Tennis Sanitation after an extensive RFP process. And the contract looks a little different than we're used to and that our residents are used to. And so we feel it's very important that our residents are kind of hit with a lot of different channels for communicating those changes. So I put together a plan with review by other staff members, and just kind of a plan to use all of our channels of communication, the newsletter, our website, direct mail, social media. As I mentioned earlier, Mary and I handed out a flyer at the cleanup day to just kind of give an overview, and a brief article is being put into the city newsletter, letting them know what these changes are again, and then you'll see in the plan and timeline that I would like to put together a comprehensive recycling and garbage guide that gets mailed out to all of our service residents that receive service under our contract, and then link that on our website and put out some social media blasts, and kind of getting heavier with that notification as we get closer to the end of the year, so we don't confuse people and make them think that these are starting now. So one of the changes is that garbage and recycling pickup will be on Tuesday now instead of Thursday, and I know that will be a hard thing for people to remember, being that we've had Thursday pickup for 20 or so years here, probably longer than that. And then weekly recycling, which we've received a lot of feedback at Cleanup Day that people are very excited about that. So that shouldn't be too hard for people to recall. And then the bulk items and yard waste will now be chargeable items through Tennis Sanitation. And so we want to make sure that they're aware of that and what those fees are and how to order those pickups. And so I think having a nice guide for people to have at their house in paper through mail would be a good way to get that across to people. So I'm just asking you to take a look at that plan and approve it, so I can go ahead and get these things going and get residents on board.
I'll make a motion that we approve the plan.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? did a good job on putting that whole plan together.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. Next is City Council work session. Consider scheduling for 10/25/22. Eric?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We do have a few remaining items from many conversations the council had over the summer, and as we are towards the end of the year, it's probably important to close some of those loops. So those items are obviously your fence consortium discussion, a follow-up and potential adoption of your mission statement, and discussion of a council policy on speaking, whether it be at the council or planning commission, what have you. So the packet does have some drafts in there. Certainly those are working documents subject to more discussion, and it's probably important that you folks sit down at a round table, I would argue, in probably about 45 minutes, hopefully work towards finaling those things up and potentially moving forward. Ultimately, there is one other item that is left over from your strategic planning piece, and that would be that final code of conduct or rules of procedure. Probably a little more than 45 minutes would allow, and maybe that can be punted till December or something. So I just threw a date out there, if you're so willing, Mayor and Council, to have that conversation on the 25th at 5 o'clock, and I would argue you folks should be able to at least grind through a couple of those things.
Well, I would suggest if we have it at 5 o'clock, then we just have it posted on the agenda that the council meeting will start as soon as we finish. That's okay with everyone?
Yep.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Doherty, second by Councilmember Liljegren. Hopefully I will be back in time. I have to go to Prairie Island that day for the final energy transition thing, but I'll make sure I try to get back. All in favor?
Aye.
And then consider policies to mitigate city's heat island effect. Charlie?
So this was something that was brought up during our goal-setting session, and the council seemed generally receptive to it. Talking with the city administrator, we kind of discussed the best approach in considering these options, and the city administrator had some great ideas, particularly around parking space requirements. So this is something we thought would be best directed towards the Planning Commission to see if this is of interest and what options they would look at and consider doing, since this is kind of their area of expertise. So we're just kind of looking to see if the city council would be interested in asking the Planning Commission to review these documents and consider some policy changes.
It sounds like a good idea. One thing that we talked about several times in the past was with some of these parking lots, say, like Walmart or Menards, or some of them are very large parking lots that, because they're only used mainly like to capacity, like Black Friday, say. And now that there's getting to be more online shopping, that maybe those parking lots are not used as much, and maybe it could be used for more redevelopment to smaller buildings of some sort. But when I look at the heat island, the photograph of it, some of it are things that are going to be out of our control, unfortunately, like the prison, the fly ash, where the King Plant is right now. And then a lot of it is, well, obviously the parking lots, but it's MnDOT right away. And then also with the transmission lines with XL, they will not allow trees any taller than, I believe it's 18 feet or 15 feet, something like that. So it would have to be shorter trees, which it probably could mitigate some of the heat. But also keep in mind, some of the shorter trees, especially when I get over by Kowalski's, they're so short they almost get into the view, the driver's view, to try and see around. So maybe keep those type of things in consideration.
Yeah, I think that's why we suggest bringing it to the Planning Commission. I don't think any policy would fix the entire problem, but it's something to
No.
consider as we go forward.
That makes sense. Okay. Is there a motion to send that on to the Planning Commission?
So moved.
Second.
It was kind of a toss-up. Motion by Councilmember Johnson, tie between Councilmember Doherty and Councilmember Runk.
I'll give it to Mr. Rowe.
Okay, Mr. Runk.
I tried to give it to you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then other council items or announcement. I did hear back from Melanie McMahon from St. Paul to talk about that. We mentioned with the last council meeting, they have a work session with them and the MPCA. regarding like the closure of the King plant. I did hear back from her, and what works best for her, because I mentioned work session like at 5 o'clock, was Mondays or Wednesdays would work the best for her, but I did not hear back from Craig from the MPCA yet. So when Park Commission and Planning Commission meet, I was hoping to have an answer by now that maybe we could set a date. But she gave me Mondays and Wednesdays, early part of November, early part of December, and if that didn't work, we could talk about pushing it out till January. But maybe when you have Park and Planning Commissions, maybe just run that by and see if what day may work the best, and maybe, between the 5 of you, you might know, is it Monday better, or is it Wednesday better?
What time would it be?
At 5 o'clock.
And how long would it go?
Well, when we met with them before, it was about an hour and a half, 2 hours. But maybe I'll have an answer by the next council meeting, and then we'll have a more specific time and date with both of them. But I just think it would be more productive if we have them both at the same time. This is similar topics. So that's my update on that. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Liljegren, second by Councilmember Johnson. All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night.